Hi, my loves. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jess from BehatiLife. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about Pluto retrograde. Pluto is one of the most highly feared planets with the entire zodiac, and I can understand why that is because he is connected to death and transformation and transition. And sometimes when we look at those shadow sides and those darker sides of life, we tend to have fear, we tend to have insecurity and hesitation when we're moving forward. But I can promise you that Pluto across the board is here to serve a very important purpose, as all planets are within your chart and within the zodiac. And I'll also tell you how to work your magic in order to maximize the benefit of what Pluto retrograde can bring instead of promoting and creating fear and anxiety in your own life. So let's go ahead and start. For the most part, Pluto rules death, like I said before, transition, transformation, but anything that it is that he removes and he works to strip down, he then creates a space of fertility, like a fertile space where there is growth and there's the chance to rebirth and reborn from the ashes like a phoenix. That's one of my top favorite energies and elements of Pluto traits, is this idea and this ability to bring to life things that are dormant, dead, stagnant, by the simple process of removing them and replacing them. If it was up to you and I, a lot of us human beings, we have this tendency to kind of stay in our comfort zone, and we're afraid to kind of deviate from that. Saturn is another one of the planets within our charts and within the zodiac that we fear because it requires us to be open to growth, be open to the gifts that it is that it wants to give to us. It requires us to take a step back, especially when the planet is retrograde. At the time of me filming this video, Saturn is also retrograde. So both of these planets are working, both Saturn and Pluto are working now in order to restructure and to rebuild, and it requires us to take a step back and give them space to work their magic. When we start to see struggle and conflict and pain and suffering that is unnecessary or larger than what it could be or what it should be, it's because we are fighting the process. Pluto and Saturn are the planets that you should not fight at all. You should definitely respect them, have a healthy level of respect, and give them the space that it is that they need in order to do what it is that they're going to do, because honestly, they're going to do it whether you like it or whether you don't. So as morbid and as scary as that sounds, completely releasing control, and that's another thing that Pluto rules, is control. So as much as it is nerve-wracking to release control, it's a very important part of life, a very important aspect of life. Now, what I love and what I want to remind you is that when you give the planets the space to do what it is that they're going to do, especially these big power players like Uranus, Saturn, and Pluto, what ends up happening is that things naturally start to fall into space that were weak, that were rotten, that were rancid. Now, sometimes we can't see all of what the universe has for us, and a lot of times in our lives we're not going to be able to see the bigger picture. We just know that there's something that it is that we want in our lives, and the universe wants to bring us to that in the way that it knows is best, and also serves our purpose for being here on Earth. Saturn works to do that. Pluto works to do that. Pluto connects you to your highest purpose. Pluto connects to your deepest reason for being here, as well as triggering sometimes the shadow sides of the self. Now, I know that that sounds a little intimidating, but if you think about it, Pluto rules that vulnerable space that a lot of us sometimes don't even want to touch or look at, because we truly are so vulnerable. And to be in a vulnerable space means that we have the potential to get hurt, or we have the potential to be healed. That's another element of what Pluto has the gift to be able to bring us, is deep healing, or also to feel that wound again. When Pluto is retrograde, this is him taking steps back to kind of revisit, reevaluate, and bring back to focus some areas that we may maybe push under the rug or hide, or push into the closet and be like, okay, this doesn't exist, or this isn't important. I'm living my life right now. Things are going great. Why do I have to deal with this right now? Well, that's because you could only take so many steps forward before that weak spot would be triggered by something else that happens in your life. Now, remember, Pluto wants you to have a life that is filled with purpose and meaning, not only for just yourself, but for others, because you're here to serve a greater purpose in life. A lot of times, our shadow sides or the darker sides of ourselves are definitely connected to the gift that it is that we're going to bring to others. So many people who deal with certain traumas or certain wounds, it can then be a part of their purpose here on earth in order to heal others who are dealing with that. But in order for us to be in a space, or in order for you to be in a space to help others, you have to then be able to understand and be comfortable enough with who you authentically are. Pluto rules that 100%. It wants to rip the mask off. It wants you to be honest. It wants you to be vulnerable. It wants you to dive in and to understand or look at least your shadow selves. It's interesting because Pluto rules that truth just as much as it rules manipulation and deception. And the reason why that is that for some people, the honesty of who they are and the honesty of the shadow sides that have happened to them, or the negative things that have happened to them, or the things that they're not proud of, or the things that they're afraid of, it strikes so much fear into them that they then choose to walk around with this mask or this veil of deception, because they're so afraid to reveal the true sides of themselves to the world or to a certain person. Now, when Pluto is retrograde, if there are people that are in your life that are walking around with this mask and that are deceiving you for whatever reason, for what they believe is their, greater purpose, not in the eyes of the universe, but in the eyes of their logical mind at this moment in time, then Pluto retrograde is going to work to reveal to you that this person is someone who is deceiving you, who is manipulating you, who you cannot trust and you cannot count on. You also want to look to see what Pluto rules within your chart, because sometimes it will reveal certain areas in your life, because when you look at the entire chart within your life, it's broken up into 12 different houses, and those 12 different houses represents different things. So if Pluto is transiting a certain, as Pluto is transiting a certain house, the house that rules, the things that it is that it rules, are being stripped, cleansed, removed for your highest and greatest good always. So there'll be certain areas of your life that you'll see this constant repetitive pattern or certain issues. Another thing that Pluto rules is control and our own personal power. And when Pluto goes retrograde, it asks you to revisit your ability to control and your ability to understand that some things are completely outside of your control. Pluto wants to teach you that there are certain elements that give you power, that you are able to manipulate in a positive way. So manipulation is not always a negative thing or a bad thing unless you're using it for ill. Manipulation could be a positive thing, meaning manipulating the elements in order to work something for your highest and greatest good. So those are some areas that Pluto retrograde can present to you while it's in retrograde motion, that it'll bring up into your space and into your environment now, that the more that you know, the more that you're able to work with it, the more that you're able to make change and to transition and transform into the highest and greatest version of yourself. All of these things are so awesome. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that Pluto does connect with death. And again, death is one of those things that in the spiritual world, if you understand it and you take time, you realize how important it is, and you begin to welcome it into your life. Now, in some areas, that's not to say that you're welcoming, to die or for others to die, but you'll realize that there is a cycle when it comes to working with the elements and when it comes to working with life and death. And where there is life, there is always death, and where there is death, there is life. So when something has served its purpose, and when something has lived, for the time that, it's destined for it to live, when that timing is over, it will die out. This is for people, this is for things, circumstances, relationships, habits, lifestyles, the list goes on and on. Whenever there is a death, believe me when I say this, whenever there is a death, there is always a birth that comes and follows after that. This is so important, and it's a part of an important cycle. Pluto's job is to go in and examine everything, even the things that we may not be paying attention to or we may not even consider important at this time. There may be a million other things that may be drawing our attention. Pluto is connected to the divine. Pluto, all the planets are, and they work with perfect timing, and they know when something is it's time to be removed out, when it needs to be stripped, when it needs to be released. It is not asking you for your opinion. It's not asking to listen to your feelings. It's saying, I need you to trust me because this is my role. This is my responsibility. I need you to get out of the way so that I can get rid of this for you, because what you can't see is that this is weak and it's not here to serve you any much longer. Sometimes this cleansing and removing process and this death process, maybe it's not a complete removal of a situation, but maybe it's the changing and the transformation. So it's almost like a bird, like a magical bird, kind of switching its form into something else so that it serves you better than what it was once. This is something that you'll see a lot in relationships when Pluto is moving through the 7th house or the 5th house of dating. Where the people that it is that you're dating, you just start to become more intense, more passionate, more real, more authentic, more honest with how you approach dating. You're more serious about it. You're not doing it for light. You're doing it for depth and purpose. Pluto's job is to bring that level of purpose and passion into your life. If it wasn't for Pluto, we would never have that passion. We would never have that connection. So, when Pluto is moving through, even though this death process, when you hear it, you may have fear, but in reality, what it's doing is it's creating something beautiful out of what once was. And it's for you to trust it, to always trust the universe, to always trust the higher power, and to trust your own magic and these planets as they're working themselves. If you want to support this further, if you want to support this magic further, I recommend using oils like my Pluto Death Oil. That's something that's available in my shop, and really what it helps you to do is to open up to the area of transition and transformation in a way that, you know, sometimes it is painful, but it gives you power as you're moving through this cycle. A positive thing that I see come from Pluto retrograde is the fact that because Pluto is retrograde, it brings back things from the past. Sometimes that is old situations, old relationships that you had a really strong connection to, and now all of a sudden they surface up now. That's, again, another reason or another way to use my Pluto Death Oil, not to promote or anything like that, but if you want to work magic, and if there is a person that you felt soulfully connected to or you had a soul connection to, then this is the perfect time to work your magic in order to bring that connection back into your life now. This is another excellent time to bring in and to attract in a soulmate, a powerful soul connection into your life, because Pluto is retrograde. It brings back and focuses on not changing and transitioning, making you move forward and release and to grow, but revisit and bring back connections of the past, which means karma and fate and fated lovers, especially now as Saturn is going retrograde as well. Saturn is connected to karma and long-term connection and commitment. So the magic of these two together is so powerful in bringing in that significant other. For those of you guys who are working on soulmates, twin flames, and your life partner. When Pluto is retrograde during this time, this is also another time to work on magic that involves you evolving yourself for your highest and greatest good. This means taking any steps and making any changes, or at least being open to them and watching to see what Pluto is doing on its own, but also taking control in a lot of ways and saying, okay, this area of my life is where I need to make some changes. Like, this is where I'm weak. I want to learn how to heal this, or I want to do this better. This can, again, be diet, lifestyle, relationships, confidence levels. It can be a home environment, changing your home environment. all for the better, using Pluto retrograde to revisit and to totally transform and transition and creating your own death, meaning like, you know, removing, releasing, stripping, cleansing, purging, releasing, I already said that, the areas of your life or the things in your life that you know no longer serve you. This creates a space where you are working your control while owning what you can do, owning what you're capable of, while still working with the energy of this planet and allowing him to aid you and guide you as you, again, go through this releasing process. For those of you that are focusing on finding your purpose and your reason for being here and how you're going to help people or career connections, you know what I mean, like the work that it is that you do for others, Pluto retrograde is an amazing time to go back and revisit that. Let's say you're working a normal 9 to 5 and you're not really happy with the job or the situation that you're in, that current circumstance. Pluto retrograde is that time to kind of revisit your current lifestyle, revisit your purpose, and to make moves to restructure it. Now keep in mind, Pluto retrograde and Pluto in general moves very, very slow. And as Saturn is also retrograde during this time, they both move very slowly. So the changes that you're making, sometimes it's going to be an overnight overhaul, especially as we're walking into the full moon. At least when I'm filming this video, it's the 24th of April, 2018. But the Scorpio full moon, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and the full moon brings everything and highlights it up to the surface. Scorpio connects to power, intimacy, passion, purpose, connection, deeper connection. So when the full moon and Mars conjunct Pluto, all of these, and Pluto retrograde, all of them are working together to create this energy change and the release of a blockage, which is the biggest thing that I see, and the power to kind of rocket towards your purpose and reason for being here, and also to bring in significant relationships and to revisit that. This is a perfect time for you to be open and to watch what it is that's happening and to not have fear, but to be empowered. That's the other thing that Pluto works to give to you, is to empower you and to embolden you. All right, my loves, so I hope that has helped to explain for you in some level of detail what Pluto can do for you. I hope that you really take some time out to work your magic. Of course, if you need any oils or herbs or services, all of those things will be down in the links below. And we will talk soon. Thank you so much for sharing this video, for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll talk soon. Bye.